Welcome back to All 32. It's your boy Jamal. I hope you like fantasy football because this is a fantasy edition week. Whether it's FanDuels, DraftKings, or just your typical fantasy football leagues, we want to try and get you prepared for the start of the season this week. So get your notepads out and get ready to take some notes because we're joined by a fantasy football expert who apparently has a PhD in the subject. He's a writer and a show host like myself, and who's doing some good things out of Saugus, Massachusetts. Mitchell Renz, man. Mitchell, how you feeling tonight?
I'm good, guys. Thanks for the intro. It's a hell of an intro, and I'm really excited to be here. And the PhD actually stands for passion, honesty, and determination, and it's something that I live by because if you want to be successful at anything you do in life, you need those things. So that's what that stands for.
I like him already.
I'm about to say that's
probably the best thing I heard all day.
It really is, man. It really is. That's better than my damn intro. All right, so Mitch, man, let me go ahead and introduce everybody right quick. First off, Montel is in the top left corner with the bare shoulder. Montel, obviously this is Mitch, man. This is our guest. I kept it a secret for a little bit, not out of like necessity, but just let them know that, you know, that we were just having a guest. But anyway, now that we didn't all met each other on the mic, Mitch, top left, that's Montel. Top right with a frozen head is Nick, and bottom left is Thomas. So now that we got that out the way, Montel, how you doing tonight? You good?
Man, I'm good, man. First and foremost, I feel a little disrespected, a little slighted because I ain't get quite the introduction that Mitch got. You ain't even called me the knowledge dropper. You need to understand who I really am, brother. I'm the knowledge dropper. Mitch, he forgot to tell you, Mitch, I'm the knowledge dropper. All right, it's cool though, but he left that out. A little side note, but other than that, my weekend was great. I went to the moon and came back. Now I'm good. Ready to drop knowledge on them. Let's get it.
Hey, Nick and Thomas, y'all good, man?
Yeah, man, I'm good. I don't got nothing to back up Montel's whatever he just said just now. I had a good weekend, man. Me and Shorty went to the Nationals game. It was cool for a little bit. It was hot out there though. Like we sat in the sun. It was there. We left at like 3 innings for real, but it was cool while we was there though. Everything else was good about the weekend. It was lit.
Y'all attended the baby shower and shit and all that type of stuff.
Oh yeah, man, we did. Congratulations to my boy Dakar. He probably will never hear this, but if he do, congratulations.
Hey Thomas, you good, bruh? You got a birthday week coming up too.
I do. So yeah, other than that, I mean, we're gonna hit up this Top Golf this weekend. So I'm looking forward to that. And yeah, man, this past weekend I was actually moving, so you know how much of a pain that is. But yeah, everything's done. Yeah.
Beltway days.
All good. Yeah, I hired someone, so I forget them days. So.
Hey, so all right, coach. So we're gonna go ahead and get into our guest, man. So Mitch, how long have at what point did you start deciding to focus in terms of podcasting and writing, all those types of things? At what point did you start to focus on fantasy football?
Well, I've been doing fantasy football now for 12 years with my family league. We've been doing it. It's an extremely competitive league. It's literally way more competitive than the show The League. But when I graduated college in 2015, I had the opportunity to go play professional baseball in Germany. And I played baseball for a year over there, and it was an amazing opportunity. But when I was over there, I really missed, my friends, my family, and just having this kind of conversation. So I know when I came back, I was super determined. And that was about a year ago. I was really determined to make a difference in the fantasy community because fantasy football offers so much more than just a game. It offers an escape from reality, even if it's just for a minute. So I really try to horn in and understand that we as a fantasy football community are a community. We're a family, and that's my main goal. And that's why I love doing this stuff. And I do have a little bit of a marketing background. So if you guys want to talk after the show on how to get some extra site on your website, let me know. But I'm really excited to be here, and you guys can follow me on Twitter at Mitchell Renz 365, and I'm a head writer at Gridiron Experts, writer for the Fantasy Footballers, certified expert at Fantasy Pros, and check out my podcast, Gridiron Experts. So I'm a busy guy.
There it is, definitely.
Y'all heard them plugins, man? Y'all heard all them plugins he just gave out?
Yeah, I was actually just on ESPN Honolulu, and they called me the LeVar Ball of marketing. So I'm not really sure if that's good or not, but
It's great.
I mean, you
Great.
you
That's probably
definitely
the
bringing
best
attention
thing.
to yourself. I'm about to say it definitely is. You're bringing attention to yourself, whether it be good or bad. It's still all good attention because it's coming towards you. You getting your name out there, man. So where did you go to college, man?
I went to college at Centenary University in Hackettstown, New Jersey. I'm originally born and raised from Pennsylvania, and then I went to college in New Jersey and went to
Also,
Germany for a year.
you're located in Massachusetts.
Right now, yeah, no, I just moved up
Okay.
here for work.
Oh, my bad, my bad. I messed up the intro a little bit. But okay, so I guess we'll go ahead and get right into it. Start off with the basic fantasy football questions. Look, man, this is going on my third year, I want to say, in fantasy football. But the people who also are in this conversation with us, they're not as new to it as me in terms of being consistent. They've been in it like a little bit longer than me. But in terms of just the basic guidelines, the personal guidelines of drafting, um, what are your personal guidelines first and foremost, just in general? And then, what do you think are the positions that people tend to reach on the most that should be taken, in later rounds and stuff like that?
Well, I guess I would say first off, go to Fantasy Pros and you guys can get my rankings. So that'll definitely help you guys out. But the
Yeah.
thing that I like to do for drafting, and because every draft is super different, and the one thing that the fantasy footballers always say is to be water, and it's just be really flexible, and you can't go off just a sheet. So what I like to do is do tier-based drafting. So I always make basically a tier 1, tier 2, all the way down to tier maybe like 20 of all the players. And if I have a tier 1 running back still available on the board, and even though my rankings might say I would take a wide receiver ahead of him, I'm going to go with the tier 1 player, if that makes sense. So, and then people reach for quarterbacks. Quarterbacks is super deep this year. It's deep almost every year. And I mean, if I realistically can't land Rodgers, Brees, or Brady, and I don't normally target those guys until like the third or fourth round. So in normal drafts, they go a lot higher, but quarterbacks normally people tend to reach on quarterbacks a little bit, and I'm perfectly okay like grabbing late round guys like Tyrod Taylor, Kirk Cousins, Ben Roethlisberger. I mean, there's just so many deep quarterbacks. I mean, you can rely on. So that's what I like to do.
Okay, cool. In terms of well, there's a lot of people who completely ruin their drafts in like the first couple rounds. I know one person who's not going to be named that has a habit of missing the draft period and just fucking up his whole team. so 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 with that being said, man, do you think in the first couple rounds of the actual live drafts, what do you think are some ways or one of the few ways where you can actually just completely ruin your draft early before it even gets deeper in the later rounds?
Well, yeah, it definitely doesn't help not showing up for your draft. Actually, the league I do with my college buddies, I have a 7-page contract that they all sign before the year, and if none of them can show up to the draft, they owe me $100.
Wow.
With the power of Venmo, it's pretty amazing what you can do. But honestly, like we make sure that
Hey,
league is
Mitch the
very
real deal.
tight. Oh no, I don't mess around with fantasy football guys, so nothing to play around with. But
Definitely.
another way, though, to really ruin your draft is to get really intoxicated. We have beer at our drafts, and I have one buddy every single year. He just gets absolutely hammered and starts taking kickers way earlier than what they should go, and I would definitely not encourage that. But if we're going to talk about actually fantasy football, I think too many people sometimes try to take a home run swing in the first or second round instead of maybe playing it safe. I mean, you can seriously lose your draft if you try to take a home run swing in the first round, second round, and it doesn't hit. So I think just maybe not going off on a super limb, not reaching for somebody who probably shouldn't go in the first round just because you believe he's your guy. He's probably going to fall to you in the second round. So I would say that.
Okay.
I'm gonna go ahead and chime in. Hey Mitch, I got a question for you, man.
Let's hear it.
Because out here in DC, Prince George's County area, we kind of take our Redskins serious. Who's your team, if you don't mind me asking?
To be honest, guys, I don't really have a team, and because I think it creates bias. But if I had to pick one, I worked for the Jets in college, so maybe that's why I don't have a team. But
Okay, so it's gonna be a little hard for you to answer this question, man, because I tell these guys all the time, man. The only thing I hate about fantasy football is it kind of throws things off emotionally for me because I'm a Redskins fan, and if we're playing the Bengals and I got Giovanni Bernard, I'm rooting for Giovanni Bernard to go off, but I'm also rooting for the Bengals to lose. So I guess you can't even answer the question because you don't have a team, man. But I was just gonna say, like, how do you stay interested in fantasy football with having a team? But saying as though you don't have a team, I'm gonna go ahead and ask you another question. Who do you see as being a fantasy bust this year? Do you have any guys in mind that you see taking steps back this year and not really being the fantasy stars that they were last year?
I mean, some of the guys that come off the top of my head are like Jordan Howard. I'm not really too high on, or I'm not really high on Alshon Jeffrey whatsoever. And DeAndre Hopkins, I know he's still up there as if he had a great year, but he finished, I believe, as like wide receiver 34. So I don't see why certain guys like this are being drafted really high. Matt Ryan, and then I guess Derek Carr, some early busts for me.
Wow, Derek Carr?
Yeah, Derek Carr. Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah, I'm about to say that kind of.
Like he got his money in. He's not going to show up.
I want you guys to go back and look at Derek Carr's game logs. He has one game last year where he threw for over 500 yards, and it was like 50 attempts. Basically in every single other game, he was like QB 15.
Was that the Titans game? I think.
Nah, that was the Bucks. The
Yeah.
Bucks. Yeah, he ripped the fucking hole in their defense, bro. It was ridiculous.
I'm just saying, like, he's actually not been very good in the red zone. They just signed Marshawn Lynch, who is probably, I would imagine, going to have some red zone threat, and his schedule is daunting. I mean, it is horrifying. When you look at his schedule he has to go up against.
And they got the first place. I agree. Yeah.
It's
Patriots,
tough,
who else? The Patriots, who else was the other division winner? I'm thinking of the Texans, who should be obviously way better, and I'm pretty sure they're going to have the same defense. It hasn't really changed under Bill O'Brien, so I agree. In terms of the schedule that they're facing, I don't know the division that they're facing, but I do agree with that. Thomas,
they go against the NFC East. I think we go.
They do. I was talking about an AFC because they face the first place opponents, but I don't know the division that they face in the AFCs. I mean in the AFC, but they do play the NFC East though.
I just looked at it. I just looked at his game log, and he does have a point. What he has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games with 3+ touchdowns, which isn't I mean that's about almost 30 of your schedule. Other than that, he's averaging between 200 and 300, 1 touchdown, 2 touchdown games, which is, like you said, pretty mediocre.
But I mean, I mean, it's just he plays against. I mean, he's got to play the Chiefs twice. Chargers defense is a little bit improved, and then he's got to play the Broncos twice. I mean, I don't know. It's just his schedule. I'm not really always a big guy on schedule because it changes so much, but for how deep quarterback position is, I'm not going to take Derek Carr in my top 12 quarterbacks because I just don't think he has the upside with the schedule that he has. I don't see it.
No, I respect it. I definitely respect it. That's a good point. In terms of, you talked about the who can be a potential bust, but we're gonna go ahead before knock these questions out for the NFC East. Obviously, like I said, this is the Hogstyle Network. It's a Redskins centric podcast, but at the same time, all 32 is focused on the entire NFL. But with the NFC East in general, before we get to the NFL, who do you see in terms of the NFC East that are potential sleepers within the division?
So I'll start it off with, we'll go Dynasty first. Dynasty in regards for fantasy football. And the guy who's probably not going to have a big impact this year, but it's a name that you guys should keep on your radars, is Rico Gathers. He's tight end for the Cowboys. And Jason Witten's getting near the end of his career. How he still gets open just absolutely baffles me. I've yet to figure that out. But Rico Gathers is a big time. He's a big dude. He's like 6'8", 280. I mean, in comparison, Gronk's like 6'6", 265. So this guy is a monster. Played college basketball, which I don't know how well you guys know, like how many amazing tight ends in NFL history have played college basketball. I mean, we're talking Tony Gonzalez, Antonio Gates, Jimmy Graham. I mean, those are some big time names.
Reed had a little crossover in basketball too. Jordan Reed.
All right, let's not get carried away.
Damn, son, what's up? What's up, bro?
No, chime in, guys. It's all good. But no, I love Rico Gathers. I think he has upside, and I just think that offense is sooner or later going to turn. Obviously, Witten's going to retire, and it's going to be Rico Gathers. And then I'll go Paul Perkins. I'm pretty high on Paul Perkins. The first 8 games of the season, he had 21 carries, and then in the last 8 games of the season, he had 91 carries. I'm not scared about Wayne Gallman, and Perkins is actually a pretty good pass catcher. I believe he's the all-time receptions leader at UCLA, so he's been able to show, from a running back standpoint, all-time leader. And honestly, though, my favorite sleeper in the NFC East, and it's not even close, is Samaje Perine, running back from the Redskins. This dude is 5'10", 235. He's got legs like redwood trees. He is a monster and just absolutely trucks people. If you guys want a good NFL comparison, it's Michael Turner. I mean, Samaje Perine's going to beat out Rob Kelly and what the heck's Matt Jones? I mean,
how soon?
Oh, dude, honestly, their game is about as boring as their names. And just like, it's not going to take long. I mean, when you watch Perine run, I just think he's just such a better overall player than both of those guys. And I mean, Perine's the all-time leading rusher out of Oklahoma. Heck, he's even had a game where he had 427 yards and 5 touchdowns against Kansas. I mean, that's like 72 fantasy points off the top of my head. But
that's Kansas, though. Kansas.
Yeah.
That's like playing like a D3 school. Yeah, like it's a high point game. Well, it'd be
all right, you don't know what high point is, man.
It'd be like playing the Jets. Like,
okay, well, Rob Kelly averaged 4.0 yards per carry at Tulane. I mean, he's a glorified fullback, and there's no way that those two guys are going to be able to keep Samaje Perine off the field. There's no way.
Hey, man, we will see. Cause because obviously I'm a Skins fan personally, but I am in Rob's corner with this one in terms of this year. I think Samaje will take over at one point, but I don't think it's so soon. But I do agree with I do like the sleeper, your favorite sleeper, because of the fact that he will be utilized a lot in the red zone. So that is one way. Obviously, you're going to get your touchdowns. He can have 10 touchdowns this season. Not saying he will, Nick and Thomas. I'm not saying he will, but he can have 10 touchdowns this season. It's like a LeGarrette Blount situation. You're not averaging much, but you still get in the end zone, and you know how to get in the end zone. So I definitely agree with Samaje as far as one of the sleepers, and a lot of people out here like him personally. He can't fumble.
I got another name for Mitch. How do you feel about Evan Ingram from the Giants?
I like him. I like him as a talent standpoint, but there's just so many mouths to feed in that Giants offense. And last year, the Giants ran the most 3 wide receiver sets 97% of the time, and it's actually not even close. I think the next closest is like the Packers at like 76. So I just don't know if he's going to be able to get on the field as much. And I mean, he is not a tight end. He is a wide receiver, and he's really bad blocker, but he's a good receiver. Odell Beckham's going to be on the field almost all the time. Brandon Marshall is going to be a red zone threat. Sterling Shepard actually last year played the most percentage snaps on the Giants, second most in the NFL.
Oh, wow.
Do you think that, since we're on the Giants, do you think that the fact that they have so many more weapons that, like, I mean, we know OBJ, he's wide receiver 1, but how do you feel about, picking up guys like Sterling Shepard and Brandon Marshall that, had okay fantasy seasons last year, but, since they're all on the Giants now, like, that may even take away from the targets that, Odell Beckham gets.
I think Beckham's targets have come down. I mean, I think Beckham was at around like 169 targets last year, so I don't know. I'm a big Brandon Marshall fan. I got a bit of a man crush on Marshall. I mean, he's the first guy I ever wrote an article about.
Yeah, he's my favorite receiver, actually, too.
And I mean, what I love about Marshall is the dude is super motivated. I mean, I don't know if you guys know, he's never made the playoffs before in his career.
I felt bad for him at 15, man. He was right at the edge.
Oh, man, I don't know. I hope for his sake, like, they make the playoffs, and I think they will. I mean, I can make an argument that the Giants have a legitimate chance of winning that division, but
I agree.
I agree too.
I don't know. There's a lot of mouths to feed, and I mean, Shepard had like 100 targets last year. I'll see that coming down to like 80, and I don't know. I would be surprised if Marshall. I don't know. I think I have him as like wide receiver 24 right now in my rankings, but it's tough.
It's 24. What about I'll ask about the PPR later. See if that changes anything. But 24. I feel like off the top, 24 isn't that bad, especially like in a 12-man league or something like that. I would assume getting Brandon Marshall wouldn't be a bad thing at ranking 24. Should be a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, I like to believe it's going to be a good thing. I mean, I think he's got like out of the last 10 years, 8 of those 10 years, he's had over 1,000 yards. He has just
Hey,
put
that's a
up
Hall of
numbers.
Fame, man.
I mean, last year was just so bad. I mean, the Jets were just an absolute, I don't know, I'll say holocaust of a team, and just, I mean, you want to talk about from the quarterback position. I mean, 16 touchdowns and 25 interceptions. It's actually not even. I mean, that's a horrible touchdown to interception ratio. I mean, no other team was even close to that, and I mean, he
Look,
really
I'll
suffered
explain
because
it
of
for
it.
you perfectly. I'll explain it for you perfectly. You guys, or I shouldn't say you guys, but the Jets. The Jets messed up when they were begging Ryan Fitzpatrick to come back and join their team.
That's two. That's two
That's
goats.
that's.
I don't need nothing else, man.
Hey, Montel, you know we can hear you, bro.
Okay.
But yeah, man.
That's too close, man. Too close.
But yeah, man, that's where y'all messed up was trying to get Ryan Fitzpatrick to come back on your team. You should have just moved on without him. But I'll go ahead and move to Zeke right quick.
I'm gonna say before y'all go ahead switch tonight. But before we leave the NFC East, quick question: how do you feel about Zeke's suspension, and how far do you think he will fall in the draft?
Oh man, it's a tough one. I mean, I don't know what's going on, so I'm not going to sit here and say like, oh, this is what would happen to Zeke. But if he were to get suspended a game or two, I would drop him down to probably my 7th player overall. But I mean, I don't know.
That's
We
still
learned.
not too bad.
No, that's still
We
top
learned
10.
last.
I'm about to
That's what I
say,
mean.
bro, like that.
I just don't know if we can move him any farther than that. I mean, we learned with Le'Veon Bell last year. I mean, honestly, the importance of the first 1 or 2 games is not really all that important. Heck, I can even make an argument that losing week 1 or 2 is, for some leagues who don't do fab budgets, can actually help you. I mean, if you're one of the first teams on the waiver wire after seeing what teams will do week 1, sometimes that actually can help you. And I mean,
Yeah.
I'd rather have Zeke, I don't know, the playoffs instead of weeks 1 through 2. I mean, so he's an amazing running back, and he's going to be featured. So I can't see it dropping much lower than what he's going already at. I mean, he's right now my 6th player overall, running back number 3. So yeah, I'll drop him a spot.
Okay, cool. So look, y'all heard the NFC East. We're gonna go ahead and get into these broad NFL questions because this ain't just about the NFC East. But in terms of your defenses and or slash special teams, who are we gunning for this year? In terms of who should we go after, and also the teams that weren't good last year defensively and special teams on fantasy. Who do you think may take a little leap in terms of that's worth suggesting in the later rounds?
Jacksonville, go ahead.
No, it's actually what I was going to say. I think on paper, Jacksonville's defense is legit. They signed A.J. Boye from the Texans. I mean, they just have a nasty up front. You have Ramsey. I mean, the Jaguars are a serious defense, but honestly, for me, guys, I draft a defense to my second to last pick. I've actually even had some drafts where I don't even take a defense if I really don't need to. I mean, what I do then, like if I have a draft, like let's say this weekend, and I don't need to take a defense, I won't take one. I'll take an extra running back. I mean, and then try to see what happens throughout training camp, and maybe my running back hits, and if he doesn't, so what? I drop him, and then I'll pick up a defense for week 1. So I don't really go out there and really try to get the big name defenses, because a lot of times you have guys who reach for a defense, and finding a defense who's going to score consistent points. I mean, they're already so close. I mean, I had the Chiefs ranked higher with Tyreek Hill, but now reports are coming out that Tyreek Hill might not be in special teams as much as he was last year, so that kind of hurts. And I mean, my top 3 defenses are the Broncos, Texans, and Seahawks. And I mean, the Texans get back J.J. Watt, which I would imagine helps, and the Broncos have an amazing defense every year, especially that secondary. So I don't know, guy. I mean, like I said, defenses for me is kind of a tough one. So
Okay, because I was gonna ask too. Now that I thought about it, I heard on I want to believe NFL Network because you had said your top 3 included the Texans. Last year the Texans, even though they had the number 1 ranked defense by the season's end, in fantasy they were only like 15th or 16th. And I'm assuming that has a lot to do. Obviously, I mean they play good defense, but I'm assuming that has a lot to do with. And I don't have their stats in front of me, but maybe lack of turnovers and touchdowns. So I know they was getting to the quarterback, but so are you why are they in your top three per se, specifically them?
Because the addition of J.J. Watt is going to obviously help the pass rush, and I also think defense is a lot of times so much to do with the offense as well. I mean, the Texans had so many 3-and-outs last year with
Yeah,
just
that's a
poor
good point.
quarterback play, and you could definitely tell the defense was getting worn down in certain games. But like I said, I mean, the Texans were realistically what you said, the number one overall defense in total yards and finished 15th in fantasy. I mean, it's just so hard to predict what a defense is going to do, which is why I don't try to do it. And yeah, there's so many injuries that can happen on a defense throughout the year, just like an offense, I guess. But I don't know. It's really hard to say exactly how defenses are going to finish and project because so much can change. So
Understood, man. I got you. So here we go. Quarterback question for the younger ones. You got Winston, Prescott, Cam Newton, and I only added Cam even though he's like 28 or 29. I believe 28. I added him because of the weapons that he have around him now. So Newton and Marcus Mariota. You have to choose one for this year. Who are you rolling with in terms of your quarterback out of those four?
I'm going Mariota. When I did my projections, Mariota came out as the highest, and I think the addition of Decker, Corey Davis, I mean, he's got a deep wide receiver core with Tajay Sharp and Delaney Walker catching the ball, Juno Smith, and amazing running backs, obviously. And I think Mariota's legs are definitely a big reason why he can be special, but he doesn't need to use his legs. I mean, he's a super efficient passer, and I'm excited what the Titans are going to do. And I mean, when I look at those other guys, I mean, I'm not high on Newton. I'm not high on Prescott. I do like Winston, but Mariota just edges out Winston just because
Gotcha.
I think he's going to have a little bit extra yards on the ground compared to. I think Winston will throw more touchdowns and have more air yards, but I think Mariota's legs get shown a little bit more this year.
Got you. So it's crazy because we actually have a Titans fan on the show, but he's just not on tonight. So he would have loved to hear that. He would have been going nuts after you said the Titans. And we also have a Cowboys fan on here, but
unfortunately,
I'm about to say unfortunately. So he's listening, but in terms of Dak Prescott, I'm pretty sure we know why. Even though his statistically were good last year, but in terms of fantasy football, why do you say you're not that high on Prescott? Just explain why not Prescott?
Well, the volume I don't think will be there for Prescott, and their schedule this year is much more difficult compared to last season. It was one of the easiest schedules, if not the easiest schedule in the NFL. So I think that definitely helped. And they lost two pieces to that offensive line, which not nearly enough people are talking about. And I mean, I don't know. I would imagine they're still a top 10 offensive line, but they're definitely not top 5 in my opinion. And I think that's really going to hurt Prescott. And I mean, Des Bryant. I mean, who else? They have Cole Beasley, but I mean, if you guys still think that their offensive line is top 5, I mean, Pro Football Focus has them rated at 9 overall. So I think that's pretty fair. So,
hey Nick, how you feel about that, man? You want to make an argument for your boys?
I'm gonna let my boys play, do the talking. You know what I'm saying?
I
ain't gonna talk.
But
I mean, I feel like
if you're not gonna say nothing, I'm gonna make sure Montel say something.
No,
right
I am
now.
about to say something. You're right. I am about to say something. I be tripping. I'm lying.
I be tripping.
So look, I would say it's only one hole in our O line that I can say right now. I'll say that's our left guard. I don't even know who we're gonna plug in right there. Because if Jonathan Cooper goes in there, I don't like that. But other than that, I feel like Dak Prescott got a lot of weapons he can throw the ball to. Of course, Jason Witten, he's always going to get open. Dez Bryant, hopefully he stays healthy. Cole Beasley, Ron Switz in the slot should be a pretty good matchup for us. And then you still got Terrence Williams. He's okay. He's not as bad as people say. I feel like Bryce Butler is better than him. And then I feel like Zeke should have a good season as well. Because if you run 4 wide, you got to spread out and respect it. Zeke should be able to just eat up in the middle. So I feel like that should play off on each other. You run a lot of play actions off of that, and it's bombs away. So
how do you? Oh, go ahead. My bad.
Well, I feel like Dak should have a pretty good season. Like I feel like he should be taking the top off a couple of defenses. But I feel like they're gonna play it safe early in the season, not to show too much, but for games like Denver and a lot of other games that we got, and that hard division, such as we got the Chiefs still, and we got what's got a lot of good corners. I think the Chargers corners are pretty good. Their defense is pretty good. I think we'll be all right though. I think we'll be straight.
So
Yeah,
I mean,
I like Dak from a real quarterback standpoint, but that's the thing. The Cowboys play real football to win real football games, and I mean, I don't know. It's not always what I'm looking for from my fantasy QB. The volume's just not there for me to take Dak as a top 15 quarterback.
How's he in that conversation and Wentz not? That's what I want to know.
Look, do you really need that answer, Thomas?
I mean, I understand strength of schedule. I mean, he's on his sophomore year just like Dak. So, I mean, if you're talking about Dak and, like he said, sheer volume alone will you not want to go towards him. But you look at the Eagles, I mean, they're, pass first.
Hey, Thomas, was Wentz one of the four people that we asked about?
Yeah, I was about to say it really wasn't, but let's ask Mitch for the sake of Thomas.
I said, why wasn't he in that 4? I mean, it could have been 5, but I don't see how that can edge out Wentz to be in that conversation. That's just me.
So, Mitch, where do you got Carson Wentz rated on your rankings?
32.
No, not quite, guys. I think he's probably like quarterback 22 for me, quarterback 23. I mean, his wide receiver upgrades are massive. I mean, he had the worst and most least talented wide receiver core in the NFL last year. I don't really think that's even close to discussion. And they have an amazing offensive line. You could argue the best offensive line in football. But I mean, Wentz last year had the lowest touchdown percentage in the NFL, and yes, you can credit that to the wide receivers he had around him. I believe he was 6th highest in pass attempts. But I don't know. I mean, when I watched Wentz, I mean, he was really good earlier in the season, and then teams kind of started to figure out him a little bit, and I think it's another reason why I'm not as high on Dak either, because, I mean, NFL coaches get an entire offseason to scheme for what you do well and for what you don't do well. And I don't know, when I watched Wentz, I mean, even late in games, I mean, he had only 1 touchdown last season in the 4th quarter. And I don't know, when I want a quarterback who's going to lead my team to victories, and I mean, 1 touchdown in the 4th quarter in the entire season, that's kind of scary to me a little bit, but I'm not a big Alshon Jeffrey fan. The dude's soft, can't stay healthy. Torrey Smith is a great field stretcher, and he's going to take the top off defenses. But I mean, I am a fan of Ertz, and Jordan Matthews is okay, but man, I don't know. I just don't think Wentz can still be put up above guys like. I mean, I would take Palmer over him. I would take Tyrod Taylor over him. Andy Dalton. I mean, it's.
Man. You hear this, Thomas?
And that's fair.
I hear it. I mean, all the points he made,
Hey, Thomas, did you know that Wentz only threw 1 4th quarter touchdown?
I didn't know that. He just dropped some knowledge. He might be.
He the real knowledge dropper.
Hey, time out. Let's not get carried away.
But look though, Montel, I meant to get your thoughts on the Cowboys, because that's what I wanted to do before Thomas asked about Wentz. Your thoughts on the Cowboys, because I know you keep it completely honest about the Cowboys, man. So what are your thoughts on Dak before we move on?
Time out. Before Montel say what he gonna say.
Come on, bro.
Remember what he said in the chat? I think it was today.
And I was going to mention that. It was today. First and foremost.
Okay, go ahead.
My man, Money Mitch. Is it okay if I call you Money Mitch? Money Mitch?
Yeah, I've been called way worse.
Okay. Money Mitch, because your suit in this picture is money. Man, you made some good points about the Cowboys, and I know that you're a fantasy football expert, but it sounds like you know some ball, man. It sounds like you watch football heavily, and you kind of know what you're talking about right now. Unfortunately, you rubbing some guys the wrong way tonight on this show, brother. And I got it. But I'm gonna let you know now, what you're saying is absolutely true. Enough people aren't making enough noise about the Cowboys losing 2 offensive linemen, which is big. But I will say this, and I did say this earlier in the chat. If you look at Dallas's offense on paper, you got an elite level running back. You have an elite level receiver. I'm not sure if he's quite there at that elite level, but he is. He has the potential to be based off of his talent alone. And Dak Prescott, I agree with your points, because you don't need him to do much. Like you said, Dallas plays real football to win real games. So you don't need Dak to do as much as you would ask like an Aaron Rodgers to do. And I'm not sure if he would be able to, in all honesty. He's not a quarterback that's going to stretch the field often. But that defense is what is going to hurt him, evidently. They're just too young right now. And I don't think that they talent-wise, they aren't as talented as that offense. But those two guys missing in the offensive line is huge, though. But I gotta agree with him about Dak, only because, like he said, the volume won't be there. You guys are going to run the ball. You're going to play.
They was close as 50-50 as any other team in the NFL in terms of run-pass ratio.
Yeah, and you don't even see that in today's game, ever, hardly ever. You got a lot of guys splitting carries or carrying the ball, running the ball 20 times a game. Dallas, they're toting. So I gotta agree with him about Dak and the Cowboys specifically. Like the strength of schedule is another thing. You guys' schedule is gruesome.
I mean, the thing that you said though, that I really liked is the Cowboys' defense this year is horrible. So I mean, there is a chance that maybe Dak has to throw more. But the way I spin it is, I mean, the Cowboys last year were already, I believe, I think they ran the second fewest plays in the NFL. I wouldn't be surprised if this year they try to be the lowest offensive play run team. I mean, let's keep that defense off the field as much as we possibly can and rely on our strengths, and that's controlling the ball, leaving the ball in Dak and Zeke's hands. And Dez Bryant is still an elite receiver. He is an amazing receiver. His touchdowns, I mean, when that guy plays more than 14 games, he puts up double-digit touchdowns every year. I don't think he's ever had a year where it hasn't been like that. So I love Dez, but it's not fantasy relevant.
So, in terms of as an actual receiver, since you mentioned how great Dez was in your opinion, is he a top 10 guy? Just not in fantasy, but overall as a receiver, he's a top 10 receiver.
Oh, easily.
Oh, okay.
Appreciate that, man.
I just want to put that on record.
So I got a question. So since we talked about Mariota a little bit, isn't he kind of frail? He kind of glass-like, kind of towards the end of the season, and that's the money time in the season for real. Like that's playoff time in fantasy.
True.
So how what would you do about Mariota? Like, do you really think? I think he's pretty good, but I think around when you need him, he's not going to be there just because at the end of the season he's looking at like a knee injury or anything, just because he does run too. So it's like anything can happen with him just because he's always out running around. I'm not gonna say he does RG3 like things, but he does get hurt in the end of the season, like just trying to do extra stuff.
I mean, he's been in the league for 2 years, and I mean, yeah, unfortunately last year he got injured, but I don't know. I still don't know if we can call him frail. I mean, he had a freak injury. I'm not going to put money on freak injuries. I mean, this is the NFL. People get hurt. It's a brutal league. So, but I mean, do I think the chances of him getting hurt are higher than a guy like Jameis Winston getting hurt? Sure, I do. But also, I mean, Mariota before he got hurt last year, I think was QB3, on a per game basis. So he's shown the upside, and now you add Eric Decker to that equation. I mean, man, I don't know.
Decker.
Yeah.
Decker's good, man. Decker's a legit red zone threat. I mean,
I think Nick added a great point, though. Do you take into account injuries when picking up players, like when you're drafting? Like, do you take that into account?
Oh, for sure. I mean, like you said, I think Alshon Jeffrey is my wide receiver 27 because the dude just doesn't stay healthy. And I think from a talent standpoint, sure, Alshon's pretty good. I don't think he's a wide receiver 1, but he's a guy that I've dropped down. Carlos Hyde's a talented running back. I drop him down. Ben Roethlisberger, if you told me Ben Roethlisberger was going to play 16 games this year, I can make a legitimate argument that he throws for 5,000 yards.
Hell yeah.
But he's drops down a little bit in my rankings because he can't stay healthy. I mean, you have to weigh everything into the equation, especially when you get down to a very granular level and start examining players and just splitting hairs. So you have to look at everything. I mean, it's an entire season. So
I agree, man. So we were talking about offenses, obviously the Dallas offense, but in terms of the defending NFC champs, Matt Ryan and the Atlanta Falcons offense, they produced 58 touchdowns last year. With the offensive coordinator change, Kyle Shanahan, one of the great offensive coordinators of today, with him leaving, can we expect a huge drop-off in production from their star guys? Obviously, Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, Devontae Freeman, Tevin Coleman, etc. Can we expect a huge drop-off?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think we can expect a drop-off. I mean, they scored 540 points last year. It's only been the 8th time in NFL history that has ever happened. And, I mean, 540 points is like greatest show on turf kind of numbers. So, I mean, to put up those numbers again is pretty tough. Ryan especially, I mean, I went back and I looked at the last 3 MVPs. So Matt Ryan, Cam Newton, who else is it? I can't even think right now. Peyton Manning and Aaron Rodgers. I mean, when I looked at all their numbers, those numbers are mainly for Peyton, Cam, and Rodgers. But when they had their MVP seasons, I mean, those guys always kind of experience just kind of a regression. I mean, it's really hard to put up MVP type numbers every single year. So the next season following their MVP year, they experienced a 12% decrease in yards, a 30% decrease in touchdowns, a 32% increase in interceptions. Now, if you applied those numbers to Ryan's MVP season, it comes out to 4,351 yards, 27 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions. Now, if you don't really think that's a fair, implication, then I would suggest that you go back and look at Ryan's last 6 seasons where he played 16 games. His numbers average out to 4,400 yards, 27 touchdowns, and 14 interceptions. So, I mean, I think that's where he's going to go back to. He's going to be QB9, but I'm still confident in Devonta Freeman. Tevin Coleman's going to take a step back. He averaged a touchdown every 13.5 touches last year. I mean, for comparison, David Johnson, who had an extremely high touchdown rate, was at 18 touches per touchdown. And Julio Jones is the one guy who I think we could see have a better year. He had only 127 targets last year, and he was actually 6th most targeted receiver in the red zone for the Falcons, which just blows my mind. And Sarkisian has already come out and said that he's going to target him more in the red zone, which I've yet to figure out why no coach has done it. I mean, he's only has 1 double-digit touchdown season in his career, so if he can get double-digit touchdowns plus a high target rate and receptions that we see Julio get, he could have a big year.
So I mentioned, well, I mentioned, you mentioned about you talked about Matt Ryan in terms of regression to the mean, where he's actually, his numbers are actually, typical or consistently at. So the one thing that I wanted to point out, because I'm glad you brought that stat up, is that Matt Ryan, prior to, and people call him elite now, which is fair. He proved he had a hell of a season this year, and it's really hard to take. Well, you can't take it away from him, period. But these past 2 years prior to 2016, Matt Ryan, he looked like a 12 to 16 ranking quarterback, more so between 15 and 17. He wasn't necessarily a top 10 quarterback like he was this year, or top 5 this year. So I think a lot of people got to understand, and I know there are going to be a lot of people gunning for Matt Ryan in fantasy football. I believe I don't know if he's I doubt he's going to be top 5 pick. Doubt that. I mean top 5 rounds is what I meant to say. I don't think he's going to be a top 5 pick in that aspect. But at the same time, a lot of people really don't understand, or they forget that Matt Ryan was struggling prior to Kyle Shanahan being there.
Yeah, no, I mean, I totally agree. I mean, the Shanahan offense is hard to pick up. I mean, we saw Ryan struggle in it. I think he had 21 touchdowns, 16 interceptions his first year in it. And in the 4 teams that Shanahan has coached in that first season, it averages out to 4,000 yards, 19 touchdowns, and 18 interceptions for quarterbacks in that first Shanahan season. So just because it's a pretty complex system in general, but it has favored teams in that second or third year. But I don't know, just to put up the numbers that those guys put up last year, it's really hard to duplicate.
Hell yeah. So we talked about Devonta Freeman, we talked about Samaje P. Ryan, we talked about Paul Perkins, Tevin Coleman, a few of those running backs, Rob Kelly, but your top 5 fantasy backs we didn't get to. Who are your top 5 heading into 2017? Obviously, we mentioned Ezekiel Elliott already, so I know he's in your top 5. So who are your remaining 4, and where do you have Zeke ranked?
So I'll start it at LaShawn McCoy's number 5, and I think he's getting close to that dreaded 2,500 carry mark, and that's kind of scary. It's kind of like a point where running backs start to break down, but LaShawn McCoy is an amazing running back, but losing Anthony Lynn as their offensive coordinator is going to hurt McCoy, I believe, and that's the main reason why my number 4 running back is Melvin Gordon. Anthony Lynn, who was a coach for the Bills, and 2016 2015, the Bills were ranked 2nd in rushing attempts, first in rushing yards and first in rushing touchdowns. And now he's the new head coach at the Chargers. That offense is improved on all aspects of the game, like receiving and their offensive line. They upgraded in the draft with Forrest Lamp and Dan Feeney. I mean, Forrest Lamp was my highest rated offensive lineman or offensive guard in the draft. I mean, if you want a comparison, it's literally he's Dan Martin 2.0. So for you're a Cowboys fan, you'll appreciate that. And then it's Zeke at 3. Even if he gets suspended, he's going to stay at 3. And for me, it's David Johnson at 2. I think he's going to experience a little bit of a touchdown regression, but he's still going to be super involved in that offense. And then it's Le'Veon Bell, number 1. I mean, Le'Veon Bell last year was a stud. He averaged 157 yards from scrimmage a game, and if you were to do that for a 16-game season, that's 2,512 yards in the NFL. That would literally be an NFL record from yards from scrimmage. So I think he only had 6 touchdowns last year, and I mean, if he can improve his
touchdown thing.
But I mean, like, touchdowns are the hardest thing to predict every single year, and I mean, with that just large, that extreme workload and then that amount of yards. I mean, even if he can just get into double-digit touchdowns, which I don't think is a problem, especially, I mean, with the receiving core that the Steelers hopefully have. I mean, Martavis Bryant hasn't been, he's technically still not. Well, he's still not in the NFL technically yet. He has not been reinstated, so until he's actually reinstated, he's technically not on the team. But I mean, if he is on the field, he's going to stretch out the field, and I think that's going to leave a lot of open space for Le'Veon to just have an insane year.
Okay, Nick, I heard you say something when he mentioned Melvin Gordon. Did you have anything you wanted to add to it?
Nah, I was just noticing that he noticed that Melvin Gordon was a baller. That's all that was. Okay. But I do have one question though. So about Le'Veon, like his contract situation, do you think that will have any type of effect on his play this year coming up, or like you think he's going to like ball out to try to get a long-term deal, or you think like he might take a step back, or like how do you think that will play into his play? And also with the addition of James Conner, I doubt he plays that much, but he is a good running back too for that team.
Yeah, I mean, Conner, I guess you could handcuff him, but I would take him really late just because he's not going to get any work as long as Le'Veon's healthy. But that's been an issue for Le'Veon, and a pretty interesting stat that I've found out: at least one running back in the consensus top 3 running backs every single year has finished outside of the top 10 since 2003. So, I mean, between Bell, DJ, and Zeke, I mean, one of those guys probably going to finish outside the top 10. Honestly, I don't see it happen to David Johnson or Zeke. I mean, I don't see it happen to any of them. I think the only way it happens is by injury, and I think we can all agree that Bell's the most likely to get injured. So I think Conner could be a pretty sneaky handcuff in that regard. But, man, I don't know. I mean, Bell, if he doesn't report to camp, honestly, in the next, 10 days, I'm going to put David Johnson first, because a lot of times then what we see is guys aren't in good enough shape, which leads to injuries. And right now I'm already splitting hairs so closely with David Johnson and Bell. And, if Bell keeps holding out, I'll probably put DJ up ahead of him. But Bell wants to show out for running backs. He wants running backs to get respected and get paid. And I don't blame him, because, I mean, realistically, punters get paid more than running backs do in the NFL right now, which is it's a crime. And
yeah, it's crazy.
And then just when you look at just NFL in general, I mean, I understand there's 55 guys on a roster, so money is much lower anyway. But I mean, you're looking at guys like Timothy Mozgov gets paid more than Antonio Brown. That just blows my mind.
Yeah, I don't understand it completely. I understand the 55 to what I think 16 players in the NBA on the NBA roster.
Correct.
15 players, but at the same time, Jesus Christ. First off, the stuff that they go through on a 16-week basis. If you're lucky enough to be on the Super Bowl teams, 20-week basis or 21-week basis, I don't understand why they're not getting paid more, or their guarantees are a little bit higher. Without it affecting the cap number of the team or something like that. That's the one thing I just don't understand sometimes.
I think it'll change though too. I've recently been experimenting with the idea of the NFL extending its season, so going to 2 preseason games, but then maybe keeping it just 16 to 18 regular season games. But instead of just one team, instead of each team getting 1 bye, give each team 4 byes. So every single 4 weeks, a team gets a bye, lets their players rest up. Also, this is going to help out the NFL generate money. I mean, they're going to be able to have more primetime games. I mean, we're glued to the TVs on Thursdays and on Sunday nights and on Monday nights. I mean, imagine if they had a Thursday night game, a Friday night game, a Saturday night game, a Sunday night game, and
Oh,
a
that's
Monday night
overload.
game.
I ain't gonna lie to you. I
Well,
think that's.
But what I'm saying is,
the
I mean,
back.
but that's going to generate more money for the NFL. I mean, there's so many games that happen on Sunday. We can't watch all the games on Sunday, and neither. I mean, it's just not possible. But if you can prime time a lot of games late at night, I mean, it's just going to generate more money for the NFL. And also, the 4 bye weeks are going to let players get healthy. I mean, it's going to let people rest up, not play through injuries. It's going to extend players' careers. It's going to help people just, I don't know, be solid investments and not get hurt all the time, and really let players show their talent. And also, I think it's why the NFL needs a D League. I mean, there's too many guys in
That
the
I agree
NFL.
with.
Too many
Yeah,
guys
I
in the
definitely
NFL
agree
just
with the
get hurt,
D-League.
and then that's it. So.
Because NFL Europe was that for these guys. Like a few people, I think James Harrison, matter of fact, came from the D League. I think James Harrison came from the NFL Europe, and so did like Kurt Warner and a few other people to mention.
He came from. I know Warner came from Canadian football, I believe.
Oh, he came from Canadian.
Yeah, Canadian.
I know he played in Arena.
I'm about to say,
I know he played in the
Arena. Yeah,
I know he played
right.
in the Arena League too.
Arena.
I thought he played in. Okay.
That was Arena.
All right, so. Yeah, but it was a few people that came from NFL Europe, man, that made a name for themselves out here. But I mean, that is a small point to your bigger point in terms of just hold on. Uh-oh. My bad, I got distracted from my phone. But I definitely agree with you. Definitely agree with you, man, in the larger aspect. But I was gonna ask you in terms of your running backs. So you were really stressed. Well, I'm not stressed out, but in terms of David Johnson and Le'Veon, in terms of placing their rankings, who just missed out on your top 5?
Devonta Freeman. And it's kind of like, for me, when I do like my tier-based drafting, it's Bell, DJ, Zeke, they're tier 1, Melvin Gordon, McCoy, tier 2, and then it's Devonta Freeman all by himself in tier 3, and then it's a huge drop-off to like Murray, Ajayi, and then I guess Howard would be in that tier 4.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just about to bring up Jay Jonathan. There you go.
I wanted to see how you felt about Ty Gurley, because man, he gave me a heart attack last year.
Well, I think Gurley's going to have a major bounce back season. I mean, his rookie year he averaged 4.8 yards per carry. Sophomore year, he has an abysmal 3.2. But I mean, there's no more Jeff Fisher. I mean, Jeff Fisher is the kind of coach that walks into Ben and Jerry's and orders vanilla. I mean, he's just a super boring guy. And I just think, addition by subtraction. I mean, no, but I mean, like, seriously, guys. I mean, if I told you right now, I mean, if not many running backs are going to get the kind of work that Gurley's going to get, and I mean, if I said if he can get to his career average, which right now is 3.9 yards per carry, do you think that's doable?
Yeah, for sure.
I agree.
Okay, and if he has the exact same amount of touches as he did last year, so carries and receptions, with a 3.9 yards per carry, it comes out to like 1,200 rushing yards, and yeah, it's like 400 receiving yards or whatever, or maybe 300. No, bad at math. 250 receiving yards.
I am too, man.
And I mean, he had 6 touchdowns last year. I would imagine their offense is going to be a little bit better. I think they averaged 8 points like from the offense last season. I mean, that's literally like almost never been done. I mean, that's just over 1 touchdown a game, and I would imagine Goff improves a little bit, and they've added some receivers and whatnot. So maybe even if you can add another like 2 touchdowns to Gurley's game. So I mean, if Gurley can get like 1,400, 1,500 yards just due to workload and like 8 touchdowns, I mean, that's RB11, RB10. So
okay. That's a little bit high in terms of like how I had him just in general on that offense. Like I said, I'm new to the fantasy per se. It's like my 3rd year, but at the same time, I feel like Gurley, that offense, they added a few people, but they also are inexperienced. Like they added some good names. I want to say his name was Cooper Kupp.
Yep.
Yeah, that's one of the guys. They added a good tight end though. Can't remember his name.
Higbee.
But yeah, Higbee. All right, so yeah, these guys are good, but at the same time they're young. In terms of opening up that offense to make it a little bit easier for Gurley, I don't see it just yet. This year, a lot of people complained about their offensive line not being good, and I thought that was a cop out for Gurley because they they only missed like one player, I think, from 2015 heading into 2016. So I don't think their offensive line changed drastically. So I think that's one of the things. I'm not sure exactly what it looks like in 2017. I know they got help at one spot. I can't remember where on the offensive line, but they got help at one spot. I think it was Andrew Whitworth who joined them. But I just I don't know if they did enough to help Gurley out to get back to a top 10 area in terms of running backs.
I think it's just due
for fantasy, obviously.
I think it's just due to volume that I think he can get back to like I think I have as my running back 11 right now currently.
Okay.
So, and it's just simply because of that volume. And I mean, Jeff Fisher has yet to show that he's been able to produce a good offense realistically in the NFL in the last 6 years. So I think not having him is going to help. And I mean, their offense last year, I think they had 14 passing touchdowns, 20 interceptions. I would imagine that improves a little bit. I don't think their offense is good. I don't think it's even close to being good. But that defense is going to be impressive. I mean, Wade Phillips goes from the Broncos to the Rams. I mean, Wade Phillips has been a magician when it comes to just being able to work with defenses. So, I mean, if they're in more positive game scripts where, maybe they don't have to score as many points, but they can still lean on Gurley, I just can't imagine them being as bad as last year. And even if they improve just a little bit, and just if Gurley can get the 3.9 yards per carry and add an extra 2 touchdowns, I mean, with his workload, he is a top 10 running back, and it's as simple as that.
Okay, cool. So, I guess, first off, Mitch, man, Money Mitch, this has been a great conversation, man, and this has been a great conversation, bro, and we appreciate you for joining us and actually being our first guest. So you done a hell of a job, in my opinion, man, and definitely appreciate the good content and all these type of things, first and foremost. But we'll go ahead and end it with this question before we wrap it up after that.
Oh, before we do that question, bro, I got one question.
So we got 2 questions then, clearly. What's up, Nick?
How do you feel about O.J. Howard and that system with the Bucks?
So O.J. Howard, from a real NFL standpoint, I think is the most complete tight end prospect in the last 10 years, just because he is an amazing I shouldn't say amazing receiver. He's an above average receiver. He's an athletic freak, but he is a legit run blocker. And that's, in my opinion, going to hurt him in real fantasy football. He only had 3 receiving touchdowns at Alabama, and the Buccaneers last year, I believe, ran the most single eye formation sets in the NFL, and I think that's where you're going to see Howard. You're going to see him with his hands in the dirt because he is a bully on that line, and he just bosses people around and just punishes people. I mean, there's so many highlights of Howard running down the field and just pancaking people, and I think that's one of the reasons why the Bucs went out and got him. And tight ends just don't produce in their first year. I mean, minus like Gronk. But he's just such an outlier. But I mean, in the last 17 years, only 3 rookie tight ends have ever had over 500 yards and 5 touchdowns in the same season in their rookie year. So it just doesn't happen often. And it's just because it's just such a complex position to play. I mean, you're learning how to block. You're learning how to be just a decent pass catcher. And the Buccaneers already have so many options on that offense. So do I like Howard as a talent? Yes. Is he a good dynasty pick? Sure. But, I mean, Cameron Brate still was tied for the league lead and 8 touchdowns last year from the tight end position. So I like Howard from an NFL prospect, but I'm staying away from all rookie tight ends in fantasy football.
Okay. I respect it, man. I respect it. So in terms of your can't miss, your no-brainers, obviously you have a ranking sheet. So your top 5 rankings, who do you have as your can't miss guys this 2017 season?
I'm going Le'Veon Bell, David Johnson, Antonio Brown, Odell Beckham Jr., and Julio. If I figure out what's going on with Zeke, I might move Zeke above Julio. But, I mean, I just think Bell, I mean, we already talked about him before, why I like him. Same with DJ. And Antonio Brown, he's another guy. I mean, he had 106 receptions last year, which has actually, been pretty down for Antonio Brown, and he's the only receiver over the last 3 years to have over 100 catches, over 1,250 yards, and over 10 touchdowns. So that's unbelievably consistent. And I mean, we're looking at a year where Julio and Antonio Brown are just 1 year removed from 136 catches in a season, and then they go down. I mean, last year actually, historically, was a really bad year for wide receivers. It was I I think it was like the worst year in the last 6 years. And I think it's kind of funny. I mean, how all these receivers were being taken early in the first round, and now it just shows like, what have you done for me lately, kind of thing in the NFL. But I mean, I don't know. I would see AB getting up around like 120 catches this year, probably 1,400 yards, and around that 12 touchdown mark. So that's why I like him. And OBJ, I mean, is just probably the most electric player in all of football right now. I mean, nobody can cover him. He's just an unbelievable route runner and just incredible hands, and just he's going to get volume. So those are my top 5 can't miss guys.
Definitely, man. So, again, appreciate the time. And also, before we end this, we also have to ask this, man. What are you watching on TV right now? Last night, Sunday, there was 3 good shows. Well, I guess 4 technically. What are you watching on TV these days, man?
Guys, I'll be honest, I don't really watch a lot of TV. I stay pretty busy with fantasy, but when I do have time to sneak away once in a while, I watch more Netflix. A little bit more of the Netflix and then the chilling, I guess. But it's I like the offense or the office. Just kind of got into that. And
oh, you're gonna love it, bro. I've already finished. I finished it last year, I want to say, or what's 2016? Yeah, 2016. I finished it early last year, man. The Office is fucking hilarious.
I'm like kind of from around that Scranton area, so I get also like a lot of the inside jokes. So that's always pretty cool. And then I'm a huge Rick and Morty fan, so Rick and Morty season 3 came on last night, and I was all about that.
I say, yeah, I don't know much about. I ain't gonna lie to you. I don't know much about Rick and Morty.
I'm about to say.
I want you to watch it. This is what I want you to do. All I want you to do is give it a shot. It is the most bizarre show you will ever witness, but it is effing hilarious. And I don't know who said they went to the moon and back, but this place takes you to Mars. It is a crazy show.
So, are you into the Netflix originals?
Honestly, I'm a comedy guy. And if it doesn't make me laugh, then it depends what it is. But I mean, I work probably 9 hours, 9 hours a day, busy, and then man. I do fantasy football for another like 4 when I come home. So I'm pretty busy, but but this is what I want to do, and I want to make it. So sometimes that's what you got to do.
Definitely, man. You on the grind, man. You got to sacrifice some things. Can't watch TV like the rest of us. can't watch TV, man. But I definitely respect it, man. And Mitch, again. You've been a great guest.
Yes, sir.
I'm definitely going to be following and paying attention to you on. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
All right, my bad. I thought my Skype froze, but I'm definitely going to be paying attention to you throughout the season. Again, go ahead before we close out, man. Go ahead and get all your plugs in. Let everybody know where they can find you. Everything that you're working on, writing, and your podcast, man. Let them know.
So you guys can follow me on Twitter at Mitchell Renz 365. I write for Gridiron Experts, Fantasy Footballers, and Fantasy Pros. Also, check out my podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, and SoundCloud, Gridiron Experts. I do the segment, The Empire Fantasy Show with owner Mike Riggs. Check out fantasyfootballtshirts.com. I mean, fantasy football is a lifestyle. We've already said that, so why not get some apparel that matches it? And I don't know if you guys are, if you guys can, I mean, it'd be awesome to see you, but I am going to be a featured guest at the Fantasy Sports Show in Toronto. August 25th to 27th. Come check me out if you guys want. Get tickets there. And again, I just want to say thank you guys for having me on. It was super fun, and I think it's kind of funny. Me and my friends in college used to always say, I mean, if you ever see a random white guy with a group of black guys, stay away from him, but please do not stay away from me. So, because I mean, I don't know. Like I said, though, I mean, I greatly appreciate you guys letting me on the show. It was fun. You guys are cool guys and very knowledgeable, and I'll definitely be keeping up with the podcast. And if you guys need anything all year for fantasy football advice or just company advice, building your brand, just let me know.
Definitely, man. You've been, like I said, you've been a great guest. So I'll be sure, definitely, because I'm the one on Twitter, really, me and Nick. I'll definitely be sure to keep in contact with you. Anything fantasy related, I'll definitely be hitting you up, and I'll be sure to actually send me all your info where they can find your work and all those type of things. Send it to me in a DM. So we're gonna make sure we have it on the Hogstye on our link, so we can actually so people can go find your stuff and all your information, all your work. So send me all your stuff in the DM. We'll put it on there when we release this the show.
Goes down in the DMs.
My boy Money Mitch, man. It was a pleasure having you on.
Appreciate that, guys.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and wrap it up from here. Thank you all for listening. I hope you had your notepad out. Hope you took your notes. Because, hey, fantasy football right around the corner, man. We live, man. Thank you all for listening. Talk to y'all next week. Peace.
Let's get it.